A good point. I agree. I've definitely seen that in the past. One customer can drag you down.
Well, and you have to know when to fire them, right?
Yes, exactly.
Also, Chicky and Chet, is this a situation of being able to know how to identify your early adopters? Because sometimes your actual adopters are not who you have already targeted. How do you come up with not only good customers but early adopters that hopefully are going to stick on board for a while as well, right?
Right.
Well, that is right, Joel. And it to me, it is all about understanding how you track success. So, for instance, our first client, and we have a travel plugin, and our first client was actually a funeral home software system that funeral homes would use. And it was perfect because we plugged into every obituary. So when somebody died, Uncle Harry died and you wanted to go to the funeral, it was right there. But the client was lying to us about how fast they had rolled it out to their client base because we're B2B to C. And we didn't have a piece of technology in place to track the placement of our product to see if they really had it in as many places as they said. Now we've subsequently fixed that, but that would have fixed that whole situation. Is we could have held them accountable, we could have shown them, here's how many times you have placed it, here's, the uptake of the product, here's the engagement, here's the conversion rate. And so understanding how you're going to measure success, I think, Joel, is a big one.
Absolutely. Kevin, do you have any experience in the this space of attaining your first 6 to 12 customers, and do you want to share it?
Yeah, so I agree with Chickadee. First of all, is that who to engage and not to engage. Like you got to get rid of all the tire kickers for sure, right? Because they'll consume all your time. So you're looking for the 20% that is actually going to deliver revenue to your business. So I totally agree. Um, we're in an interesting position because um, we have been able to generate a pipeline of business opportunities, I should say, um, it just based on our reputation and our word of mouth stuff. So we have Big O tires and Jiffy Lubes and Speedy Stops and a lot of business potential opportunities. The challenge for us is that um, when a customer wants to do a proof of concept delivery, so they need to take our, they need to get some hardware and some software from us, and it's going to cost money, right? And it's going to cost, $15 or $20,000 to do a proof of concept. And the vendors, the document scanner vendors that we're working with, don't want to pay it. And we're a small company and we can't absorb $15,000 worth of proof of concept. But it's a beautiful opportunity. Like we have a fantastic opportunity with one of these customers, and we're finding it very hard to take the next step because from a customer interest into actual like testing the product, validating the product, and then going forward because we have to assume all the expense of the cloud services that we operate. So finding opportunities is not a problem for us at all, but supporting it is a big problem, and it seems like it's a chicken and egg catch 22. Like this should be a simple problem to operate. It's just cash flow and get people, but that's where we're at. So as far as getting 6 to 12 customers, we've already got them identified. And how can we fund supporting these proof of concepts and these customers to get them to actually buying status?
Cloud cost you should be able to get for free because certainly for the proof of concept. So that piece you can eliminate. But if you need hardware in place, like at the location, that's a different story.
So we offer a solution that includes a document scanner. So you get it from a company like Fujitsu, but we offer all the cloud services. So behind the scenes, we're operating the cloud service and all this kind of stuff and the connectivity configuration. and that costs our team a lot, some time and effort to configure. So that's what I'm struggling with, and I'm having to do it, and I'm willing to do it because these are great opportunities. But I want to delegate it to our team, and I don't have the technical resources to delegate this to. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, all of that config can be automated. So, you can set it up at the click of a button. So you
Mm-hmm.
do it once and then you can fire it up as many times as you want. That's what our whole company is built on. That
Okay. Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
I think that can be a challenge too. And this is something I see a lot of too. When you bring on the first 6 to 12 customers, you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. I mean, Kevin, in your case, you've identified who you want those 6 to 12 customers to be. But I wonder if the experience on the panel here, when you bring on those first customers, how often is it that you how easy is it to get distracted in fulfilling a roadmap that meets their requirements necessarily, which influences your product. So how much do you allow for those first customers to influence product roadmap? And also, how can you be careful in making sure that I would say your first 6 to 12, those are amazing customers because they believe in you, right? They're your early adopters. And a previous company I was at, the early adopters were the customers that had the longest lifetime value. So those are you probably your most valuable customers. So how do you balance that when you're bringing them on, making sure that you're keeping your roadmap going in terms of also incorporating feedback from them as well?
And I think that's a very important point. And we have a program called Technology Adoption Program, and where we don't overcommit. We say, hey, you know what? Sign into the Technology Adoption Program. You provide feedback. It doesn't mean that we're, committed to doing whatever you say, but if you have a good idea and it's justified through a business justification and technical justification, and we feel it's a agreeable feature functionality, then we can incorporate that, and you can get advanced notice or access to this technology. So we actually have a marketing program for that kind of stuff, because you're right. We do not want to overcommit and say, hey, you know what? Any kind of feedback is not going to be incorporated in our stuff. It's only, things that we can, it's going to make sense to the business, their business, but we don't want to overcommit to say, hey, you know what? Voice control is like, something we can deliver tomorrow. So yes.
One thing I've done in the past, to answer that issue is, 20 plus years ago, I was a CTO of a SaaS platform, and I was kind of looking long and hard at what Salesforce was doing because they were really the first $1 billion SaaS platform. And so I pretty much copied everything that they did. But one of the things they did is they allowed people to submit ideas for new features in the platform, and then they let the community vote
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
So that's the way you create a prioritized list of things to do that you're not defining what to do. The market's telling you what to do. And
Totally agree.
that worked
Yeah.
really well for me, of enlisting our customer base and saying, hey, here's the program. If you have an idea, then you post it and then everybody gets to vote on it. And the ones with the most votes gets done next.
And you're right. And Salesforce is a great example. They bought Force.com, and they had a platform, and they let the third party, and the majority of their revenue is from third party applications into their platform now. They're not even like CRM is a very small percentage of their revenue now. So they're a perfect example of building an ecosystem and allowing third party applications, and not getting over, doing too much, right? They have bought companies. They bought Databricks, and they bought some CPQ companies. So they bought companies over time, but you know what? They don't want to compete with the ecosystem, and that's a great example of building a SaaS cloud service.
Yep.
Chicky, when you started up, there were services that offered similar features to what you were doing with your plugin, but weren't you kind of a double whammy? You were like first to market with a type of delivery of this program, as well as offering to the travel industry? I mean, so wasn't it even harder for you because you weren't exactly emulating what other people were doing, right?
Correct. And that's a really good point, Joel. We were moving the timeline of when you book your travel, and accelerating that back to the point where you first know that you're going to travel. So you get a wedding invitation, you find out about the death of someone, you say you're going to go visit your parents, and you put it on your calendar, that you're going to go on that trip. So it's the system that you use every day, which is where we're plugging into. So we're not making somebody go shop for travel in a separate location at a separate time that they may or may not remember to do. How many times, I mean, I've gotten on an airplane and think, crap, I didn't book a hotel, right? I mean, I just was so busy because I was traveling back to back, right? So, we changed the timing and the placement, and this came up in one of our our breakout groups. We used to call our product implementation, an implementation or installation. And we found that if we changed it to an activation, it sounded like it happened faster, which it was fast to begin with. But installation or implementation or integration felt like something that had to fit into a long timeline. And our product can be integrated into a CRM platform in literally under an hour. So that was the real difference, Joel. And I had industry credibility, but not in these markets I'm trying to go into. Nobody in the CRM space knows me. Nobody in the calendaring and contact management space knows me. So that's been my big barrier. It hasn't been the platform itself. That was easy to build. And we've got our patent pending, and we can even plug our product into Facebook and directly into a browser, so it doesn't even have to be installed. And it blows my mind that the big guys, Expedia and Priceline, who measure their business in billions, that they didn't think of it. But they didn't. So here we are.
What was the trigger point for you to scale from that 6 to 12 with, again, a product that was truly unique?
Well, our big sticking point, and it's still true today, is having a dedicated sales team that loves sales and loves the challenge of snagging the deal, right? And we have never had a full-time team that did that. And so it has fallen on my shoulders. And I asked some of the people in my group, and this is a great founders question, how many of the founders are forced to be good salespeople when that's not our skill set? I can do everything else in the company but program and close.
I would say you have to be the number one salesperson. There's no doubt. That's
Why
very.
is that, Kevin? I know, but why is that? Would you tell people in a symphony that you need to
Uh,
be the number one
I,
clarinetist? If you don't play the clarinet,
I
you
know.
would never do
I
that.
know. I'm trying to delegate like crazy to my team, but I still have to. I've accepted it that I'm the number one salesperson. I have to be that. I have to be driving not every deal, but I have to be driving the big deals, and then delegate.
Well, I don't mind doing that. I don't, yeah, Kevin, I don't mind doing that. But being the end-to-end salesperson, no, I
Yeah.
think it sends a
No.
really bad
No.
message for the
You're right.
CEO to be that.
You're right. You're
And
right.
and as
I've told.
founders, we have to reject that notion. We have to
Yep.
say, I need the best person in that chair, and it isn't me. If
I
it
would.
was me, I wouldn't be 4 years into this and still be struggling,
No, we're,
right?
we're visionaries, and we're thinking about the product. Do we want to be doing all the detail of the pricing negotiation, legal contracts? I don't want to be doing that stuff. You're right. But I've accepted that I have to be involved and get it done, and no matter what it takes, but yes, delegate those things and whatnot. But still, you have to be the number one salesperson for your company. I mean, uh, Mark Zuckerberg is still the number one salesperson for Facebook, and Bill Gates is whatever. He's not even associated with Microsoft, but he's still a visible part of Microsoft, right? And Warren Buffett's, Berkshire. So these visible people are selling all the time, and that's a responsibility that we have to accept. And that's, I've accepted it. I'm not a salesperson either. I tend to want to help people, but you have to do that, in my opinion.
So I'd like to invite
But
Mr.
I
Mulberry
think
on the stage to weigh in on this real quick. He raised his hand. So you hop in on this. It's a great discussion. I like this. Let's keep this going.
Yes,
Mr.
hello
Mulberry.
everyone. My name's Chris. A little bit about myself. I'm a founder of a social AR platform. Essentially, it's a face-to-face, in-person conversation starter. So on the topic of Facebook, think Facebook for AR. Around the concept of skill set, this is an open question for all founders. How much do you need to know to begin delegating? How much technical expertise and marketing expertise and sales expertise do you have to know to be able to effectively rally the team?
That is such a good question. And I think that relates back to what we're talking about here. I was going to bring up product market fit, right? So Kevin, you mentioned that we're visionaries, et cetera, but we also have to know the problem that we solve. And we have to know exactly what the problem in the market our product solves, right? So in that essence, if you're really good at that, how could you not be good at sales? I mean, in terms of Chicky, you're talking about the details and things like that, which I totally agree too. But I think of like OKR framework when that came to be, having clarity, giving your teams clarity in order to delegate. How does that play into it, and does sales influence that?
Well, Paul, I want to answer Chris's question. So, one of the things that I had a consulting firm for many years that I would help my clients with is what you can put this on a grid. Just think of it as a T on a piece of paper. Across the top, love, hate, and then down the left-hand side, do well and do badly. If you do something well, but you really hate it, you don't want that to be your job. Like for me, that's sales. I can do sales. I hate it. I absolutely hate it, which is why I don't do it as well as I should. So the things that fall into that category of, that you don't love it, right? That you hate it, those are the things that you should delegate to someone else. And you should know enough about it that you actually can know if they're doing a good job. And if there are things that you don't know anything about, you shouldn't be the one that is managing that function. So you should hire someone, or you should hire an outside firm and outsource it for a little while and manage the outsourced firm, right? If you're good at managing relationships. But that love, hate, do well, do badly grid, you will find to be absolutely invaluable in the early stages of the company, because you do have to wear lots of hats.
Yep. And around the wearing of hats goes back to what you're saying is, how much is enough? How much?
Well, the thing is, I can
that?
do. Yeah, here's the thing: is I can do everything in my company but program and close. I should not be doing those things though, because there are other people who can do them better. And my job as a leader is to have the absolute best person or company, and company means outsourced partner, to do those functions. Right? That's my job, is to figure out that. And if I'm constantly moving around from chair to chair, I can't possibly be balancing all of those balls well.
But the question is, how do you know? I think the question that's on the table is, how do you know enough to choose that best outsourced partner to do
Exactly.
that?
Because if you don't know enough about it, you may delegate to someone who isn't qualified for that position.
Yeah, especially when it comes
Well,
to
this is where advisory boards are so important. I have a group called the Sounding Board. I have 10 people with all different skill sets, and collectively they have one vote on my board. And I chose them because they had skill sets I didn't have. And if you don't have an advisory team, you need to get one. I can help you set that up. It's vital to an early stage company before you have all the chairs filled. And you don't have to give up a lot of equity, kind of thing.
I've found in my experience that advisory boards that sometimes are never compensated are so much more valuable than the actual seats that you have that are. It's amazing what experienced mentors can do for your operation. Just amazing.
Yes. And we actually compensate them with something called slices from Slicing Pie, which if you don't know about that, grab the book. It's a super quick read. It's an easy way to actually compensate those people. It's a long-term bet, right? You know, it's not cash compensation out of the gate. But anyway, I'm happy to share about that another time. That would be a good roundtable discussion.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. And the resource, the book was called what again?
Slicing Pie. I actually will share on Discord. I've done a couple of interviews of the author.
Is
So
it Barry
I'll post-
Relaford? Are you talking about Stephen Covey's? It's based off of the book Speed of Trust.
No, Slicing
Oh.
Pie. It is a way to handle compensating people who are helping you to build your company before you have money to pay everybody.
Oh, cool. If you could put that in the books channel, that would be awesome, Chicky.
Yeah, I will. Have to find it first, but go ahead. There it is.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested for sure.
Well, we need to wrap up here. This has been a great discussion, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for coming to the Tech Founder Circle. Anyone in the audience, I know we've got some veteran feedback or some veterans in the audience as well in terms of starting business. If anyone in the audience wants to jump on stage and add their 2 cents as the final, please let me know by just raising your hand down there in the bottom. And then again, we'll be doing these panel discussions once a week. So if there is a specific panel, Chicky, maybe we can have you come on and talk about how to set up those advisory board deals. That might be a great topic for next week. If anyone else has any other topics, please reach out to me as well, and we can get that scheduled.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Great session this afternoon, Paul. Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us. And it's truly, sincerely our hope that this is of good value for you, because it's certainly good for us. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure
All right.
meeting everyone.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for submitting that question, chat. Keep them coming. Those are good.
You're welcome.
All right. See you, everyone.
Here.
Ciao.